right, welcome to the Saturday Morning Nerd Show. I'm your host, Marcus Blake, and joined with me, as always, is the Brewing Sailor, Mr. Brendan Smith.
Good morning, nerds.
And from the Electric Jellyfish podcast, Chad Womack.
Good morning, my fellow dorks.
And we might have to cut this a little early today. Chad has got to play the Skywalker Lego game. Priorities.
I'm sorry. I'm a slave to trends.
I wish I could get into the Lego games. I hear they're a lot of fun. I just sitting there going, I don't care.
I believe me. I was with you on that from the at the very beginning of the translations, but they've just gotten better and better and better and better.
I've tried a few of them, and I can't. I've never gotten far in them.
I think they're fun, and I like playing with my nephew. But I'm also kind of the opinion that, like, are these going to come to Game Pass? I mean,
I don't know. I've never known any of them to come to Game Pass.
No, I don't think they will.
You can get them kind of cheap in the Xbox store. I've bought a lot of older ones for my niece and nephew when they're here. So, but I mean, I do love the idea of the Star Wars Lego games. I think they are fun for what they are, and they're definitely a lot better than some of the shitty ass games that we've played. I will say this: I have no doubt this game is better than the Battlefront game that came out in 2015.
Well, the fact that you've got full-fledged like dogfighting going on in this one,
right?
I mean, they've really upped their, pardon the pun, they've really upped their game on this one.
Well,
visually, I mean, it's impressive especially for a Lego game.
Well, here's the question: do you have to still deal with shitty ass PC players like in X-Wing Squadrons?
I don't think it's cross-platform compatible, so okay. I would guess not.
Because I tell you, I mean, I still love playing Squadrons, but I mean, God, Lord, the PC players. It's just anytime that we've ever played, and there's one that just seems to want to kill everybody, and he's just a relentless troll. It's like, we don't even care if we win the match. We're just targeting you.
Just killing that guy, yeah.
5 X-Wings or TIE fighters all on you. So.
And I did notice that because I just got Apocalypse. I just got an NVIDIA Shield this week because my Plex server was giving me fits that I had on my old laptop. So I just migrated everything over to NVIDIA Shield. And if you're running any kind of a home media server and you're having trouble with it, NVIDIA Shield is your answer. It's cheap, it's tiny, and it's a workhorse. And it also works as a game emulator. So this is kind of like the be-all, do-all of Android TV boxes. I'm a huge fan of this thing. They've got features on it, so you can play certain titles like Battlefront and Squadrons through the NVIDIA Shield.
Well, we also want to let them know that this is not free product placement. You can pay us to mention you next time.
This is true.
We will have.
I highly recommend it if you're interested in that.
So, all right.
We accept, and by the way, we accept bribes in multiple forms. If you want to pay us cash, that's fine. If you want to upgrade our PCs, that's cool too.
We are the cheapest whores you've ever met.
I wouldn't go about cheap. Easy, yes. Cheap, no.
Okay, yeah. Good point. Point made.
So we got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, we kind of skipped a week because today is just a wrap up of various Marvel things between Doctor Strange 2 and Moon Knight ending this week. So we're going to get to that in the latter half of the show and tell you our thoughts and where we think Marvel is going. But before we do that, I'm actually going to start with this week's Side of the Apocalypse. And granted, we still don't give a shit about the whole Will Smith slap thing, but I do like the jokes. And with that saying, this week's Side of the Apocalypse is to any idiot that's upset with Dave Chappelle and thinks that they should rush the stage and try to tackle him. Maybe you will learn from the idiot who did it this week that you're not going to be successful, and you will be the butt of many, many jokes.
I need clarification here. If you're going to sneak in a weapon at a festival of this magnitude, because apparently there were like several acts involved and musical acts, all that stuff, why would you sneak in a knife disguised as a gun? What kind of sense does that even make? Could someone explain this to me? I mean, could someone in small words so I understand everything? Because
Chad.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay. I assume that's what it was because that's the only thing that made sense. I just like
that's what crazy usually does.
Yeah. Crazy does crazy. I will say though, that if you want the antithesis to this week's Sign of the Apocalypse and you want the most wholesome moment on the internet, go look at the pictures of Rosario Dawson geeking out over being next to Mark Hamill on the set of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, that dropped on Star Wars Day. That Disney gallery of the behind the scenes of Boba Fett, and she was a 2-year-old.
Right. Well, but getting back to the whole thing about Dave Chappelle, I love the fact that, I mean, without skipping a beat, he is throwing jokes in the face of people that are complaining about him, that's a trans man. And of course, the internet went shit like that, went crazy with that joke that he's anti-trans. And I swear to God, people get over it. You've clearly never watched his last special and you forget the concept of what comedians do. So, but the reason I mentioned the Will Smith thing is, while Chris Rock hasn't really mentioned anything or given his side of it, the jokes have been endless, and I love the fact that he asked Dave Chappelle if it was Will Smith. Oh, Will Smith, you're just never going to live it down for probably forever. So
luckily he's got enough money he can go to a private island.
Yeah. Also,
just not Epstein's.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Also, your punishment is you can still get screeners from the Academy and go to the after parties, but you can't attend the actual 4-hour ceremony. Wow, that's a
punishment.
Yeah.
I can't eat rubber chicken. Oh no.
Yeah.
And Chad, was that too soon?
No.
Well, my favorite. So there was just a quick one. I was speaking of too soon moments. I saw this on Twitter a couple weeks ago, right after the war in Ukraine started, and it was NATO and Estonia working, or Britain and Estonia working on this project for NATO, and the acronym for it was Diana. And I was like, really, Diana? I was like, it would be a shame if their progress were to hit a wall.
Oh
God. Wow.
I swear, in the back of my head, going, don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it. He said it.
And this kid, 25 years worth of jokes.
Somewhere on this computer, I have a PDF of A Ticket to Hell. I'm going to send it to you now.
Is that before? Does that come in?
Dude, I'm driving the bus, man. Who are you kidding?
Yes, I'm aware.
Look, I think people should understand. If you act like an idiot on the internet and it's within our universe, we're going to make fun of you.
Yeah, we will call you out.
And sometimes there are bad jokes that go along with it. And if you're offended by that, then don't watch, and we don't care. So,
go ahead, cancel us. It'll get us more clicks.
Make us famous. Our haters are starting to like us. So go ahead, bring some.
Right. All right. So a few things that have come out before we get to all the Marvel stuff. If you are a fan of Bosch Legacy premiered this week on Amazon. Well, it is on Amazon, but it's IMDb. So you can watch season 1 of that.
Which is like saying Amazon Light, since Amazon owns IMDb, and it's the same exact player.
So I can actually finally talk about it. It's been a very hard month since I finished everything one weekend. Fantastic. It's great. If you are a fan of Bosch, you're going to get into this easily. It's great to see him as a private investigator, and them doing more with Maddie. I think my biggest kind of complaints were there are times I feel like I'm watching The Rookie when they're doing her storyline throughout the season. And I half expect Nathan Fillion to pop up somewhere, but
be a fun crossover.
Yeah. But overall, it's a great series. This first season was great. And, Harry is still Harry, but, doesn't have to deal with all the politics. And unfortunately, they do leave it on a cliffhanger. And at the time that I had written my review for it, I was complaining that if they don't get a season 2, there's no point having a cliffhanger in season 1. And then, like, literally the next day, it was announced that season 2 had been greenlit. So that's good. But anyway, I mean, I feel like just because he's not a police officer anymore, I mean, it's still Harry Bosch, and a great storyline, multiple things, going on, and you're going to enjoy it. So I kind of miss him being a police officer, but him as a private investigator is also really cool. So, Brendan, have you started yet?
No, I haven't. So this week's been a little a little weird, just because flipping back and forth with the new schedule at work between swings and mids. So I kind of forgot what day it was for a while.
Understandable. Well, it's a good thing to go back and binge watch. All right. Season 2 of Picard. Has anybody finished that, or am I the only one?
I haven't even started it.
Neither have I.
Okay. So I'm not going to give away. I'll give away a couple little spoilers. Here's the thing. I didn't think it was going to be as good as the first season. I was right. I'm still kind of writing the written review. I honestly give it about a 6. It was okay. It was cool, a little bit nostalgic, but that story could have been done in 5 episodes. How they dragged it out in 10 episodes is beyond me. And also, I don't really like Brent Spiner being a bad guy. I mean, well, let me take that back. The first Data that's kind of crappy and ridiculous. I mean, it was fun doing it but him being a mad scientist, it doesn't really feel right. So I feel like
not only that, it's already been done. They did it in Enterprise.
Yeah.
Like we've already done, and he was good in Enterprise, but they've already done it. Like everything about this show is stuff they've already done. It just felt like from everything I've read, that they just went and decided. It's like, you know what it is? It's Star Trek's answers to The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
They just copied a bunch of shit they already did and said, this will sell.
You had a great first season, and how it connected to Data and Next Generation was fantastic. You had old characters kind of pop in. I mean, it really was good. It was like every storyline that we've ever done in Star Trek, we're going to just put it all together and throw it out. And nothing against John Delancey. I mean, he's always great as Q. And I kind of love the storyline where, he's dying or moving on or whatever they call it. And seeing a younger version of Gaeta, fine. But there was really nothing original with this season. And I think that's part of the big reason that they had to quickly announce, oh yeah, we're bringing back the entire cast of Next Generation.
Right. Like because look, I mean, first of all, this show has lost all international funding. It's not being shown. You can only legally see Picard in the United States, Canada, and Australia, because it's the only place where Paramount Plus exists, because it got dumped by Amazon Prime internationally.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bad sign. Okay. Then halfway through the season, they announce the whole cast is coming back for season 3. Isn't that something you would hold normally for events halfway through the year, or like in something to build up for season 3, not something to save season 2? That's very telling.
I have no doubt that season 3 will definitely be better. I want to see the entire cast come back together, even if it's more or less for nostalgia than anything else, and the storylines aren't as great. But you started off with on a high note with a great story and how everything connected. And then you just we don't need to worry about season 2. We've already got the audience. We're just give them something that they've already, seen before. And how many times do we have to keep going back in time? A lot. Like half this season was Picard dealing with mommy problems. You know, it's
Which,
just,
by the way, you're telling me that in the 24th century, they haven't had people deal with their childhood trauma until the ripe old age of 97?
yeah, right. And somehow it connects
And
to,
by the way, again, here's another plot point that's already been done, because guess what? They had an episode where he goes back to France after this is immediately after the Best of Both Worlds, when he gets taken by the Borg, and he deals with his childhood shit with his brother.
yeah. And
This has already been fucking done.
great episode. So
It is. It's one of the best episodes of TNG, and they just had it out again.
my problem really with this is, again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't watch it, but binge watch it, get it over with. It's like season 2 of Jack Ryan. You probably won't really want to go back and watch it afterwards. You watch it for the nostalgia of little things, you know, here and there with John Delancey and all that. If there is one thing they did right in this season, they finally fucking answered the question of what happened to Wesley Crusher and the Travelers. And I thought, okay, fine. You shoehorned that in to the very last episode. Great. We finally, after 20 years, answered that question. But
and I love how that I did see this one scene, and Marcus, maybe you can provide some context for me, because you actually witnessed the whole episode. And thank you for taking one for the team. But the scene where 7 of 9 and Rafi take out a squad of like 50 Borg changed special forces guys who have advanced laser guns with a knife and a screwdriver over like a 2-acre field.
how do they?
So there's no context I'm missing here. That just was that bad.
Well, there is a little bit of context. They're trying to basically disable the Borg for the ones that are on the ship. Rios actually gets back onto the ship. Okay, here's another thing about Star Trek. You spend the majority of like 3 episodes or 2 episodes or whatever explaining how there could be no butterfly effect, there could be no little thing that, because you're going back in time to change the future, since Q puts you into a future where, you know, you're a totalitarian government and Picard is the greatest, you know, leader and is basically like Hitler and blah, blah, blah. So you've done all of this. And then what's the very first thing you guys do? You fucking screw it all up and leave Butterfly, leave shit behind that's going to, you know, ruin the future anyway. Let's not tell anybody who we really are, except the cute, hot Hispanic doctor running a free clinic. Yes, let's beam her aboard the Stargazer. There's no problem. And explain to her how they're from the future and blah, blah, blah. Like, you do it all the time.
Hey, guess what? That's something that's been.
And then somehow, just because Q does this, you go right back to the future where nothing changed and it didn't fucking matter what going back in time to begin with, because Q just wanted to fuck around with you. It's like, God. So,
and by the way, that's something that's been done before in Star Trek 2. Voyage Home, anyone?
yeah,
I was thinking.
come on. So all I have to say is season 3 with the original cast, it better be pretty fucking good. Okay.
Yeah, like I'm all for nostalgia. Like I'm all for fan service. You guys have suffered through my rants on how I hate that term.
Right.
But if it's fan service for the sake of fan service and there's no story to go behind it, like I can just go to a con to see those guys. Like I don't need to sit through a 10-hour show if it's shit.
Well, that is the biggest problem of season 2. You literally could have told that story in 4 or 5 episodes. That's it. Or a 2-hour movie. But, you know, hey, whatever. I do like the fact that, you know, the doc, Agnes, I mean, you know, she evolves and basically becomes like a Borg, queen hybrid of sorts that changes their story about, how they're going to work with the Federation and all that. I mean, that is kind of cool. I get it. But I feel like that's just kind of shoehorned in there to try to wrap up this long, overdrawn story that was unnecessary.
Has that been an epidemic plaguing writers this year? I felt the exact same way while I was watching the series finale episodes of Ozark. I'm like, the writing has gotten so damn lazy and predictable.
Well,
I don't think it's. I think it's permeating Hollywood. I think Hollywood has been getting very lazy in what they do. They're just churning out formulaic stuff that is, the whole idea is to be consumable by the masses, right?
Right.
So it's I think a lot of what we're getting, instead of stuff that's really well thought out and well written and thought provoking, is dumbed down to the point where your average idiot's just going to consume it,
spoon feeding it.
Yeah. And they're I think the idea is, look, you've got a lot of idiots out there, so make it idiot proof. They're writing it Barney style. And for people who want more than that, we're sitting here going, you don't have to insult the audience. You can actually let the audience make up their own. So then when we do get something where there are lingering questions and it leaves you thinking about it afterwards, it becomes probably a better movie now than it was considered 10, 15 years ago, because it's so different from what we're getting that it's just elevated that much higher. If a movie makes you think today, I mean, that used to be a common occurrence when we were kids.
Right.
Movies used to be thought-provoking. Movies used to, have you discussing it. Like, honestly, we'll get into it in a little bit, but I watched Doctor Strange last night, and as much as I love Benedict Cumberbatch, I've forgotten half of the movie already.
Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit, because they definitely have some complaints on that. But getting back to Star Trek, I understand what Paramount Plus is trying to do and really trying to bring all of this stuff with Star Trek back to the masses like we had in, the late 80s and 90s. All the way. I mean, you think about it, we've got like 15 great years, well, 18 really, of great Star Trek between Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise. I mean, it's I think Star Trek fans never expected that we would get so much. So I'm all right with Paramount Plus trying to bring us stuff, but
if we get somebody other than Bad Reboot,
right?
I mean, Bad Robot.
If all you're going to do is regurgitate shit and just make it nostalgic, I like J.J. Abrams and all that as a director on certain things. I don't need you to make me feel nostalgic every time. I just don't. Okay? Give me something that's different. Okay? There's a lot of things that you can do with Star Trek that we haven't seen before. You can go a little bit darker with Star Trek. All right? But you got to make me care about it. And except for really the first season of Picard and the second season of Discovery, I don't care. There's nothing that makes me want to care about these characters. I still haven't finished season 4 of Discovery, and I don't really want to.
I didn't even finish season 3. I got 5 episodes in, and the crew cried in every single episode, and I'm just like,
I know. And that's another thing.
Suck it up, Buttercup. Jesus.
Well, it's not just that. It's just
you do have this concept of, what if you had to go 900 years in the future and Starfleet is in shambles and you have to kind of rebuild it. Fine. Think of all of the stories that you can have with that. But yeah, the Discovery crew, I'm just like,
the other problem with Discovery, and I noticed somebody pointed out, one of the YouTubers I watch pointed this out, and I went and looked it up, and he was absolutely right. There are like 20 producers on every episode of Discovery, and like 5 writers, and half of that writer's room has no credits to their name. These are completely untested, they haven't written anything.
Right.
And I mean, how'd they get the job? Are they just sitting there, dual handing Alex Kurtzman and Akiva Goldsman? Because
did they have a fan fiction contest and they won it?
I guess, because half of these guys, I mean, some of them are legit writers, some of them are, but some of them have like 2 credits to their name and they're working on fucking Star Trek.
Yeah, I know.
Are you shitting me?
It's weird.
You mean I'm 1 credit away from working on Star Trek?
Well, hell, I mean, speaking of another, that reminds me of another Paramount Plus show that I just really recently got sucked into was The Offer. And you watch how that guy got his break. I mean, he was working for a defense contractor and pitched the idea for Hogan's Heroes. And that's what got him his break in Hollywood. Coming up with the idea of it. And that's what lands him the Godfather, for Christ's sakes. Well, so stranger things have happened.
But, here's the thing. Paramount used to have this deal where you could actually fans could send in scripts, and sometimes they borrowed from them.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was great. Like, if you have a really good idea or whatever, I think there was probably 10, 15 Next Generation episodes that were based off of scripts that got sent in by fans. In fact, they made a really cute movie with Dakota Fanning called Please Stand By. I think it's actually free on Hulu now, where she's a girl that she's on the spectrum of Asperger's, but a huge Star Trek fan, knows everything, and she's writing a script for a contest, and she goes on this road journey to turn the script into Paramount while everybody's looking for her. And of course, the best part is when she's stuck being chased by the police, Patton Oswalt, as the police officer, has to save her because he can speak Klingon.
Oh, Jesus.
No, it's dirty and it's cute, but her script, but the script that she writes and the story that she's trying to explain, it's amazing. And it's like, why doesn't Star Trek do this? Why was this story solely for this movie?
Look, I mean, all I can hope for in season 3 of Picard is this, that it's a backdoor pilot for Captain Worf.
Sure.
Because let me tell you, so I actually had a conversation on Twitter a few months back with a favorite of the show, Sam Witwer, who was on the U.S. version of what's Become Human, the werewolf and the vampire show.
The voice of
Being Human, and he was also, the voice of Darth Maul for many years, and on the Star Wars Force Unleashed games. He has seen Michael Dorn's treatment for Captain Worf. Like, he's seen the whole show Bible, and he's like, it's absolutely awesome. It's better than anything they have on TV right now.
Oh God!
And so I would love to see that, but to kind of dive into this whole thing about the writers and whatnot, and who's leading these writers. I wonder how Akiva Goldsman really approaches how he writes, because the man has been nominated for Academy Awards, Golden Globes, BAFTAs, but he's also a 3-time nominee for Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Screenplay. How is it that the same person that wrote A Beautiful Mind, Cinderella Man, also wrote Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, and Transformers: The Last Night?
Right.
Everybody has their Ishtar. Everybody in Hollywood has their Ishtar.
I apologize to the audience out there. We're supposed to be on mute, and when it comes to calls like that, I don't know. Maybe there's maybe Paramount's actually calling us and complaining. Don't shit upon what we're trying to do. Well, then get a fucking clue.
What's this us shit? They're calling you. Don't throw us under this bus.
Fair enough.
I'll stand at the front of that bus, Tiananmen Square style. Are you kidding me?
That's when Chad turns into me no habla.
I know nothing.
So, speaking of Star Trek, though, the first episode of Strange New Worlds premiered this week. I cannot say that it's going to be great. I can tell you right now that it's the best Star Trek that they have on Paramount Plus, besides all the other old series. I I'm glad that we have Strange New Worlds because Discovery season 2 was the best. And I liked Michael Burnham when she is an executive officer to a really great captain. Nothing against her becoming captain in Discovery, but at the same time, season 2 was phenomenal because you had Captain Pike, and Anson Mount is an incredible actor. I think they nailed it in the casting. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're like, who's this guy? You need to go watch Hell on Wheels. An amazing show. Also with another Star Trek alum, Cole Meany, who's always great.
Just don't watch the Inhumans. Just don't watch the Inhumans.
Well, anyway, we'll skip that. But I think they started off exactly right, what we expected. You know, even though it's shiny from the original series, I mean, there's a lot of. I don't want to use the term fan service, but I think
at least the bridge of the Enterprise didn't look like it was the fucking Apple Store.
Right, and that's where I was going. Thank you, Brendan. You knew exactly where I was going.
and I'll give them this. At least it struck a hopeful tone, which Discovery's been so dark and like Roddenberry's whole vision for the future was a hopeful one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I just can't get into Discovery from a pure philosophical standpoint.
But we also have to mention this comment made on a thread on Facebook. There were no lens flares.
There were no lens flares. That's true. That's nice. It's got that going for it, which is nice.
Does fruit get any more low hanging than that?
Right. But no, you're right, Brent. I mean,
hell, even freaking Obsidian made fun of that in their trailer for the Outer World 2.
That was funny.
And there should be lens flares.
If you go and look at pretty much every episode of the original series, Next Generation, every episode ended on, unless it was a two-parter, they tried to end on, kind of a high note and a very hopeful note about this is what we've learned. We've gone through tragedy, but, this is what the future can be. This is why we explore. And I thought the first episode was great in explaining to this society that by, their own actions because of season 2 of Discovery, got a hold of technology that they were 100 years away from having and where they were going in a potential civil war. I'm like, look, we've been through this. Okay. One thing I will say, I'm surprised that I'm not hearing comments from the Fox News crowd. How dare they show footage of people protesting at the Capitol on January 6th peacefully? The liberal media is at it again. I'm like,
when you need business cards, there's only one place to shop. The store with the best prices and free shipping on every order. Get premium business cards to make you and your business stand out, and at the cheapest price, guaranteed. Order today at First Stop Print. Call 888-901-4665 or text 469-708-9954.
I haven't heard anything, but I'm expecting it. And my response to that is like, well, they did show actual footage of, America tearing itself apart and an image of somebody with a gallows outside the Capitol building. So, yeah, that's not a peaceful protest. Okay. And this is the worst part of ourselves. Okay. Well, and we're not going to get into politics here, but I'm just pointing out that being able to use footage and use as an example of this is not a hopeful note. Okay. This is when we are terrible people, when we're ready to hang politicians without due process because we don't like them. Okay. That we have to find the middle ground.
Hey, I'm just saying it worked out for the French.
Yeah.
For what that's worth.
Yeah. Wow. And now I'm thinking, but if we didn't have that, would we have a really great book in The Tale of Two Cities? Oh, anyway. But no, I enjoyed it. I even loved the uniform. I mean, it paid homage to the original uniforms. Wasn't too sparkly, and it didn't look like. Remember how they had the original uniforms with the little like paisley kind of weird design in the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie?
Yeah.
It just looked weird, and then they finally got to more solid colors by Star Trek Beyond. Like, I just think everything was great about it. One little fun fact, this is a shout out to Rebecca Romaine, who plays number one. She adamantly insisted on wearing the skirt in the promo pictures. She wanted that old school Star Trek to do for this show. So I'm like, good for you. I've always been a fan. I'm a bigger fan now.
I did like the little shout out to Scott Bakula too, because the ship they were on was the USS Archer.
Yes, I agree. So,
because unfortunately he didn't get to. They're gonna do a new Quantum Leap show, and he's not gonna be a part of it.
oh my God, don't get me started. I'm already ready to tear this a new one. If your entire plot is not about going back to find Sam, then
Oh, it is, but they're never gonna find him, and he's never gonna be on the show.
Yeah.
So the show is pointless.
Yeah.
And they waited to do this after Dean Stockwell died, so
Yeah.
more pointless.
So basically, you're making a Where's Waldo Quantum Leap show. Good job.
Yeah.
All right. But anyway, Brendan, I actually almost texted you and Aaron that you had to watch Strange New Worlds. That was your task on Thursday. I'm assuming that you enjoyed the episode and you're very hopeful for this season.
Yeah, I enjoyed it more than anything they've put out so far. So, granted, low bar.
That's high.
I could trip over that bar and still clear it. But sorry, the door just opened to let the dog in, so my face went very bright and then very dark. So yeah, it's if I had to give it a first episode review, I'd say an 8.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I honestly think that I like Ethan Peck better as Spock than Zachary Quinto.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, nothing against Zachary. He did an amazing job, and he's one of the bright spots of those movies. But
yeah, him and Carl Urban are the only bright spots of those movies.
I don't hate Chris Pine as Captain Kirk, but
I don't hate him, but I could take him or leave him too.
Right. That's kind of how I am. Anyway, I can pretty much guarantee that the 10 episodes we're going to get of Strange New Worlds, each episode will have a better story than season 2 of Picard. So, all right. Anything else? Outer Range did publish a review in our April magazine. If I know all 8 episodes are out, again, this is basically the Twilight Zone meets Yellowstone. I don't know. Has anybody watched it yet, or am I the only one?
I got through the first episode, but I've never been a huge Twin Peaks fan. And this, to me, is very much Twin Peaks meets Yellowstone. This is David Lynch does Yellowstone, and Lynch is an acquired taste, to be sure.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll see if I go back to it, but I don't know. When I did that whole thing where he was just like screaming into an open maw, I'm like, is that really a thing, or is that just a giant metaphor for middle age in America?
I guess here's my thing. You do have a good cast. A lot of great cinematography and stuff, but I also found parts of it kind of annoying because, all you're doing is you're basically dealing with a big hole to another universe, time travel, blah, blah, blah. And it feels very underwhelming by the time you get to the end of the 8 episodes, to the point where well, you didn't answer anything, and now I'm invested in season 2 just to get some fucking answers, and I'm probably going to be disappointed in. So, I don't know. I mean, it was okay, but I think Brendan hit the nail on the head. It's kind of an acquired taste. Also, my chief complaint: I like Noah Reed. Obviously, we didn't know much about him as an actor before Schitt's Creek. He was great as Patrick. He really is kind of annoying in this show, and it makes me it just makes me want to go back and watch Schitt's Creek again, between, especially with, him and David's relationship. The rest, I'm just kind of like,
Meh.
So anyway, for the sci-fi fans out there, I think you should definitely check it out. We're curious to know your thoughts on it. But yeah, if they don't, you pretty much have to get a season 2 at this point just to answer the questions that they didn't want to answer in season 1. So anyway, all right. That's pretty much it with new stuff that's come out. So moving right along to the Marvel Universe. Okay, we're going to start with this. Moon Knight. I want to ask this question: did we need Moon Knight for a show?
I've only watched the first couple of them, and it just really couldn't hold my interest all that much.
Well, yeah, I don't. First of all, I the showrunner Mohammed, forgot his last name. He kind of turned me off even before I watched the show with his attitude. He's sitting there and he was just shitting on previous productions because while they were set in Cairo, they weren't filmed in Cairo, and how dare they do that? And it's like, dude, do you know how many shows are set in New York that are filmed in Toronto?
Kidding.
Right.
Or are set in LA but are filmed in Vancouver?
Right.
Or are set anywhere on the planet but are filmed in either Hollywood or Georgia?
Right.
I mean, come on, dude, shut the hell up.
Right.
Like, not everything's an attack on your nationality or your whatever you identify as. Sometimes it's just about money. Okay. Yeah. So there's that, number one. And then, the way they filmed it, like, where he just blacks out and then you don't see any of the action, and then he wakes up and he's just standing there with a knife in a bloody room. Okay, I felt like you were trying to do some Boondock Saint shit there, but then you forgot to go back and fill us in on what happened.
Right.
And all you did was deprive you made a comic book show without any comic book action until the last episode.
I'll be the first to admit, I didn't know anything about Moon. I've never read the comics, so the character doesn't really mean anything to me. But I made a comment last week on Facebook that as I was watching the first 3 episodes, the only thing that this made me want to do was go watch Brendan Fraser's The Mummy movies. And I mean the first 2, not the crappy third one, or Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I'm still probably going to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark this afternoon in between everything else. It just makes me yearn for other things that are in the desert that are more entertaining. And I'm not taking away from Oscar Isaac. I mean, he's great at it.
Somebody actually put up the late that he should get nominated for Emmys for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, no shit.
I'd be okay with that. But I guess I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, where does Moon Knight fit into everything?
Well, that's the thing too. And then they came out and they made a big deal about how it doesn't fit into everything. Like that's why Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke took it, because it wasn't directly tied into the MCU. And I'm like, well, then why bother?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. For me, it was very frustrating because I have read the comics and I do like the character of Moon Knight, and I just don't like the entire direction they took the show. I'd probably give it a 5. I mean, and that's just for Oscar Isaac's performance. And I like F. Murray Abraham as the voice of Khonshu.
Right. I think I'm
but-
probably on it's about there for me too, because
It's just
I-
meh.
I have no desire to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
It's filler. But I agree. I mean, if you're just making something off a character that's not going to connect to anything,
And
why
for,
am I-
and,
why am
and
I
for
bet-
dark characters, I'm far more interested in the seeds they're sowing for Midnight Suns.
right?
Because they're bringing John Bernthal's Punisher back, or so we're led to believe. Obviously, if you saw the after credit scene for Eternals, you heard Mahershala Ali's Blade ask Dane Whitman right before he's about to pick up the Black Knight sword, "Are you sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?" And Punisher, Black Knight, Blade, all have been part of Midnight Suns. So I'm really looking forward to a Midnight Suns team up. Hopefully that's on Disney Plus, because I think it would do better as a show than a movie.
God,
But
yeah.
but we'll see if that happens. But I just okay, you did Moon Knight, great. I don't care if there's a
Okay,
season 2.
So here's the thing. Now, I was talking about this with Allison, our assistant editor. I find it fascinating that about every couple of years she has to go back and rewatch all the Marvel movies when another one of her kids gets old enough to be able to watch them. So she's like on her third or fourth pass through everything and starts noticing things. I get these late night text messages, like it's our nerd conversation when kids are off to bed and whatnot. Marvel had such a brilliant plan that everything they were doing was going to connect to the larger picture. The order that they went in was even pretty much perfect. Okay. There wasn't any reason to have a Captain Marvel movie until about the right time that she was going to be in, the Infinity Wars. So even Star Wars, with some of the stuff that they're doing, everything is connecting to something else. Yes, you can complain about Book of Boba Fett being, filler, and that you had a couple of glorified Mandalorian episodes. Okay, fine, whatever. But also what they're doing is connecting to season 3 of The Mandalorian. Okay, there's a purpose. Why have anything that's not connected to the MC universe? Have you used up, or you've told so many stories that now we're going to the B squad of superhero characters that we're just throwing shit out there on Disney Plus just to have more stuff? All the other series connected somehow to the MC universe. Even though WandaVision is a one-off, why it happened, because it connects.
Yeah, it directly affects. Yeah.
Right. So again, I just don't really see the point of Moon Knight, and if this is just going to be a one-off, and it doesn't make me care about it. So anyway,
Yeah,
and Chad, you haven't finished it up yet, have you?
No.
Okay. Are you even interested?
I feel like now that it's over, it's probably a good time to just binge it and get it out of the way. But if it doesn't really serve a purpose other than, like you're saying, just filler, and here comes the dreaded fan service again. Although I really don't know who out there was clamoring to see Moon Knight, other than he's got a really kick-ass looking costume.
Sure.
But that's basically it. You had some potential there to make this an interesting character that could connect, but you squandered the opportunity apparently.
Right. No, that's a absolutely good way of looking at it. At some point, like everything, I do want to go back and watch all the Marvel movies again, because there's a lot of them I haven't really watched since they first came out. And I think it's great to do everything in order, especially now that you have all the Netflix shows and the Defenders and all that on there as well, so that you can kind of move along the timeline, post Endgame, and then going into Phase 4.
Did you hear the idea that we brought up on the spoilers of the multiverse on Electric Jellyfish, where we're hoping that what they will do is kind of make a special edition, I know that's kind of like a dirty word, of the MCU up to this point, and since they've made the Watcher such a prevalent part of, What If, sneak in the Watcher in all these old movies, just kind of sprinkle them throughout the entire MCU, kind of make them like, the hidden Mickey of the MCU.
Right.
Oh shit, there he is. See him in the cloud and see him in the clouds in every single MCU film. Oh, there he is. We missed him.
Where's the Watcher?
Who watches the Watcher? Just how Who watches the Watcher marathon? You've been picking out on every single one of them.
Well, like I said, but if I did all that, I don't know if I would want to watch Moon Knight again. Like I feel like there's no reason to go back now.
Yeah, if he doesn't tie into anything, then okay, yeah. Whatever.
That's my overall point. But kudos to Oscar Isaac. He was great in it, and of course, Ethan Hawke. I'm not always. I never really see Ethan Hawke as a bad guy, but they made it work for what this is. So, but I still maintain that doing a double feature on an afternoon of the first two Brendan Fraser Mummy movies is probably better than Moon Knight. Just saying.
Yep.
And if you are going to watch a Mummy movie, pretty much skip the ridiculous Tom Cruise piece of shit that came out. I think even Kurtzman said that was like the lowest point of his career.
Jesus.
Anyway, that's
pretty. That's for Kurtzman, though. I mean, is it really the lowest point, or is there just kind of like a ledge where he kind of hangs out?
Right.
Somewhere down around the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
Oh my God.
He's standing by the drain.
So I feel like he's gotten to this point where he has this staff of writers where it's just like, just give me something. Anything will do for this week's episode of whatever I'm writing, or the head writer on. So it doesn't. If it's nostalgic, it's good enough.
That's why. That's why I call their company Bad Reboot.
Yeah, pretty much at this point. All right.
They do.
So, Doctor Strange 2. So we finally get to the multiverse. And no, I did not tell you what I thought of it. You messaged me earlier, Brendan, so I was waiting for this conversation. In answer to your question, I liked it. I just didn't think it was as good as the first movie.
And also thought it got way overhyped.
Yeah. It was entertaining. It's kind of in the middle of the pack for me. I mean, because I love Doctor Strange as a character. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is great as the character. I just also was kind of worn out. So the entire plot line is a grieving mother wanting to go be with her fake children in another universe. So she goes all psychotic, and now we open up the multiverse.
Yep. The best thing I can say about this is they didn't go Rey with America Chavez. Like, she's just not amazing at everything from the get-go. Like, the kid had to figure it out and needed a mentor to help her figure it out. And even at the end, still couldn't get the whole sorcery thing. So like, she's flawed. There's a hero's journey there.
Right.
Like, it's not just she was some random person and all of a sudden can fly the Millennium Falcon.
Right.
So I appreciated that. Although I wished the movie would have slowed down just a bit, because I think it does, while it doesn't suffer from the Rey in Force Awakens, I think it did suffer a little bit from the rise of Skywalker constantly moving to the point where you can't catch your breath, because I think they could have slowed down a little bit and had him focus on her, trying to get her to control her powers a little more and helping her to control her powers, instead of just complaining about how she couldn't control her powers for 2 hours and then gave her one pep talk and all of a sudden she can control her powers.
Right.
I think they could have had that written better. I almost think that maybe because when the run times of this movie were first announced, or not announced but leaked, it was supposed to be like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Right.
And I think like 40 minutes of that movie ended up on the cutting room floor.
Sure.
And I think this is one where I really like to see the director's cut and see what that extra 40 minutes was. Because there might have been a good deal more development between their relationship that would have made the ending a little bit more plausible. As far as Wanda goes, I mean, the whole thing, it was just like, yeah, like I get it. Wanda's gone through a lot of tragedy, but you know, so have a lot of people. And I get she has a lot of power, but at the same time, they keep talking about how dangerous the Darkhold is. Maybe some flashbacks or some scenes to show us about other users who have used the Darkhold and what it's done to them, so it'll explain why Wanda's so screwed up, because she has been, you know, reading the Darkhold since the end of WandaVision. You know, maybe some backhold because you see the Darkhold, the Book of the Dead. Well, okay, but like that's a very abstract thought that's in and around in a bunch of different, you know, things. What did it do to her? Why is it doing it to her? I just think there are things they could have explained and things they could have done better so that the motivations of the characters involved would have been a little clearer for everybody involved.
Right. I do feel like the biggest problem with this movie is probably editing. I agree with that. It's one of those things where a little bit more, I agree, probably would have helped, especially if, you know, you're doing this with an audience that probably has never read the comics, and you need a little bit more explanation of what this is. So I agree with you on that front about having some flashbacks and explaining, you know, the Darkhold and other users and just giving more to the audience. Okay. My point is you basically made a 2-hour action movie, and it's stylish. It's great. You're jumping from universe to universe, and, you know, Steven's coming face to face with his past, and, you know, basically it seems like it's the same shit every universe. And of course, you know, his ego gets in the way and blah, 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 blah. I think there's some really nice, you know, tender moments with, you know, Christine from the other universe. But yeah, I just kind of sat there and thought, this is just a 2-hour action movie. And it doesn't explain enough of what's going on, except a mother who's grieving gets hold of this dark book and goes all apeshit on everybody.
And like, really, and you got all of those cameos just to kill them all?
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I'm like, Jesus, that was a great thing. I mean, I didn't care much about the What If series, but I'm all about Captain Carter and Haley Atwell. I'm like, give her a movie. I'd like to see more of her. She was great. And
right up until the moment she got bisected.
Yeah.
By her own shield.
Yeah, it was just, I'm not saying that we should have another Fantastic Four movie. I think we've probably are done with that.
Oh, no, that's still on the books for Phase 4. Yeah. That was officially announced.
However, what I'm saying, I could definitely see John Krasinski as Reed Richards, along with Emily Blunt. It may end up being the best version we've ever seen. But then again, you know, the bar is not really that high, especially after the last film. So it did make me believe and want to see Fantastic Four. But yeah,
I'll go see it if they let him direct it too, because I think John Krasinski is a very good director, developer, growing into being a very good director, and
absolutely,
I'd like to see what he can do with the property. Just give him free reign and let him run with it and see what happens. But because honestly, they can't do any worse.
Not at this point. Also,
So
like a director.
What you say? Careful what you say.
He doesn't seem like a director that will have a psychotic breakdown in the middle of production and
Yeah.
lock himself in his house or his front house, and it's not turning out the way I want to. And anyway, but yeah, it just seemed kind of a waste of all of these characters. It's like, here, we're going to give you a glimpse and that's it. And but I mean, on the one hand, I do want to know more about the Illuminati. Also, who came up with that name? It just, I don't know much about it because I didn't read much in the comics, but the Illuminati, yeah, it just sounds really weird. I keep going back to I keep expecting Tom Hanks to show up and I found the clues.
Oh, jeez.
So, but I will say this about Doctor Strange too, because part of this conversation is where we're expecting Marvel to go, and what this is setting up for Phase 4. So my question is, do you feel like this is leading to the Secret Wars, Brendan?
well, the Secret War, that's going to happen. They've already pretty much told that, which is fine. I'm all about how are they going to reboot the X-Men? Because they've got to bring them in. They own them now.
Right.
And I would like to see X-Men, some of the X-Men movies were competently done, notably the first one and then Days of Future Past. The rest of them were varying degrees of awful. So, from mildly meh to what the fuck did I just watch? So,
Damn.
So we'll see. I don't know. That's what I want to see and I hope we don't have to wait till Phase 5 for that. Although I get this sneaky sensation they might just drop hints all the way through Phase 4 and then Phase 5 will be the X-Men. So who knows? But
here's the question that I think that we have to start asking ourselves. After 12 years, over 20 some odd movies, TV shows, are we getting superheroed out? Can we get as excited about stuff like we did?
I don't think we'll ever get as excited because, look, Avengers Endgame, that was the culmination of 20 movies and their entire list of original, top tier Marvel heroes with the exception of X-Men.
Right.
I think individual movies can get us pretty excited. I think No Way Home showed that. As far as the overall Marvel plan, I just don't know if Secret Wars is going to do it like Avengers did, because Secret Wars, I think there is a very dedicated fan base among comic fans for that, and I think it will be successful, and Marvel will continue to churn out a shit ton of money for Disney. But I don't think it'll be as successful as Avengers because Avengers is such a household name.
No,
I think the only thing that has a chance to go back to the heights of Avengers is if they have a really competent, really well done, really well thought out and well executed plan for the X-Men. That's going to be it. Because if we get a series of X-Men movies where, can you imagine if instead of just doing X-Men like they did in the early 2000s, if you had a series of movies about singular characters that were as well done as Iron Man, the Iron Man movies, the Captain America movies, all of these single movies before we did an X-Men team up. Can you imagine if they did all that and built up the X-Men like they built up the MCU? And then you get the X-Men team up and, Charles is recruiting them all as he meets them.
Right.
That, if it's well done, that could really reignite the excitement in mainstream audiences.
Sure. My only question, and the reason I ask is we'll ever get superheroed out is, you know, eventually it's like, it's the same old thing. Another superhero movie.
I think to a degree, yeah. But I mean, look at it. We've been making Superman shows since the 1950s. You know, how many times has Batman been rebooted?
Right.
How many times has Spider-Man been rebooted? We're never going to be completely superheroed out, because there are fans and there are children, and there will always be both.
Yes.
But I mean, I feel like I'm getting to the point now. It's like, oh, there's another movie that we have to go see.
I mean, yeah, it to a certain extent, and I think a portion of the audience will get that way, but I don't think it'll ever be completely to the point where you're seeing flop after flop. Although I think you will see more flops, just because, I mean, you know, there's certain movies that are going to suck.
I can't say that I'm excited for like things like Aquaman 2, and I know they greenlit a sequel to the Batman, which I think they should at least give them another movie and see what happens.
And honestly, who wants to see either Aquaman 2 with Amber Heard, or The Flash at this point with what the is going on with Ezra Miller?
Mm.
I'm invested in the Flash movie for the simple fact of I got to see Michael Keaton as Batman again.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome. I think that's the only
like
really
Warner Brothers needs to just like get him and put him in a padded room until that movie launches, because that dude has lost his marbles. He's gone out. I mean, he's been arrested like 4 times in the last 4 months. And for like, not for minuscule shit, like he's on camera, like choke slamming a girl. He's thrown a chair at another woman and cracked her head open. He busted into a people's bedroom and talked about how he was going to kill this guy's poor wife. I mean, what the fuck is going on, dude? Stop smoking crack.
Well, first of all, yes, let's get the medication right.
Yeah.
You know,
holy shit.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? Josh Hamilton, baseball player for the Rangers, who had a lot of great years of sobriety. They always had a guy that was with him, but you knew that he was going to fall off the horse, and he did, and then he just went kind of batshit crazy. And thank God for him that he was getting all this guaranteed money and his overinflated contract from the Angels. But every time he did, it just ended up into something like stupid. Like I hit my daughter, or I got into, a fight and tried to choke someone out. And you're just like, for what? Can we get the antipsychotic medication right with this guy, or get him a better assistant that, keeps him sober? So good Lord, this is why studios need 2 things within their budgets. They need I don't even know what you would call them, but they need the people that are with you 24/7. Like they're 24/7 assistants. They keep you from being.
Let's call them what they are, babysitters.
Yeah.
It seemed like the term I've heard that I kind of gravitated toward was fame counselor.
Okay. Fair enough.
Keep your head on your fucking shoulders and keep them somewhat grounded, so where you don't make a total ass out of yourself in public and start harpooning and torpedoing these multi-billion-dollar franchises that you get tied to.
Also, a hooker budget. Now, hear me out on this.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm serious. So you don't go off and do dumb shit and get caught up in the Me Too movement or whatever. Just get them. Just having a budget of escorts and keep sending them women, or whatever, keep them calm, keep them whatever until the movie comes out, and it doesn't, tank their controversies. Don't tank anything, because, if they're out on the town and they're just doing dumb shit and, grabbing onto people or whatever, what is it, Cuba Gooding Jr. at this point? I don't even know how many women. I really don't know how many women that have accused him. I mean, it's not Bill Cosby numbers, but it's like slowly starting to get there. And I'm like, whatever movie he's in, just have a budget where you get him girls like it's Vegas, and he doesn't do dumb shit and end up in court.
Out of all the Justice League main cast members, is Gal the only one that hasn't had some kind of major shit come down? Because Affleck with his thing, Cavill, no longer even wanting to play the part anymore. I guess Affleck would kind of be in the same boat. Then you had what's his name? Ray Fisher get sideways with the studio head.
Calling out,
Momoa. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you really call his. I guess it's more like guilt by association because Amber Heard's his co-star, and then my God, just the whole Justice League is just collapsed on itself.
Amber Heard was always crazy and wanted drama. Well, now it's being aired out, and
I think with the Justice League, the whole you have to look at Warner Brothers' complete and utter mismanagement of the DC property. And it goes across the board. Somehow, for the most part, DC animation has somehow avoided the pitfalls, although they've had a couple clunkers recently too. But DC has, mismanaged the comics. They've mismanaged, or I should say Warner Brothers has mismanaged the comic side. They've mismanaged the movie side. To a large extent, they've mismanaged the TV side. Got the Arrowverse. They just mercy killed Batwoman because it had the worst ratings in the history of television. They finally got Legends of Tomorrow off the air because that show was literally a ship without a rudder. At that point, it had some good seasons, but it gone by. The Flash is still limping along, but I can't bring myself to watch it anymore.
I'm after season 3.
That's right around the time too.
I don't think I've watched since season 5. The Arrowverse peaked with season once they got rid of Manu Bennett's Deathstroke, it was like, okay, he was the perfect foil for Oliver Queen. They should have kept bringing him back, but Manu Bennett was amazing in that show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, they've mismanaged everything, and because they don't really. I don't know what it is about Warner Brothers, their management, that doesn't look like they look at DC as a way to make money, but I don't think they understand or know what they have.
It's just arrogance. They think that just because it is what it is, that it'll succeed.
Yeah, right. I just, I think they can just churn out, it kind of sounds a lot like Star Trek.
Yeah.
Coming full circle. They can just churn out crap and people will pay for it. And they don't feel like they have to have any kind of plan. Wow, now we're getting into Star Wars sequel trilogy.
That was on the tip of my tongue.
Jesus, you see these things.
Yeah,
all these major corporations, they don't understand. If you look, all right, and I just want to bring this up because it'll illustrate what Warner Brothers is leaving on the table. Star Wars in the sequel trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker, or I should say the Force Awakens, made $2 billion. And then it fell off to 1.4, and then it fell off to 1. Because every Star Wars fan on the planet is going to go see a movie even once.
Yeah.
Right. The reason why you got to $2 billion is because you had a lot of repeat watchers. I probably watched The Force Awakens 2 or 3 times. I did not rewatch The Last Jedi. I still haven't to this day. And I did not rewatch the Rise of Skywalker, and I will not ever again. So, you can see that drop off, and there was no clear plan. And you had one director in the middle that completely subverted, because he wanted to subvert expectations. He wanted to completely throw a wrench into the whole, I now know why Colin Trevorrow left. Because he's like, you killed the main villain. You've killed off the big 3. I have nothing to work with.
Yeah.
So if they had an actual plan, they left, and by the way, the toy sales suffered horribly because of that. And then they screwed up 10 years worth of video games because EA had their thumb up their ass and canceled more games than they put out.
Right.
They mismanaged Star Wars so bad in the last 10 years. they've left probably $5 to $10 billion in gross revenue on the table. Easily.
I think, yeah, that's probably a conservative estimate too.
I get when you try to bring somebody in that's, a fan and, grew up with this like J.J. Abrams and stuff like that. But, again, when you have people that clearly admit that we didn't have an overall plan, we're just going to make something that's nostalgic and that's it. And then you keep changing directors without that overall plan. George Lucas had different directors for Empire and Return of the Jedi, but he was still the man in charge with the overall story.
Right.
He always had writers. Everybody was, for the most part, on the same page.
There was a captain of the ship.
Right. And clearly there wasn't that. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing. I mean, the Russo, Kevin Feige and all that, I mean, absolutely. Again, you had a clear-cut plan with introducing the origin stories of characters, bringing them in for Avengers, and where you're taking everybody into the next phase. Okay, and it's paid off, even if everything is not going to be great. Okay, even if it's Doctor Strange 2 and it's like, okay, cool. It was kind of cool. But just DC has never gotten that right. And well, I think they did. And then, dealing with personal issues and everything else, he, went away. And then you bring in a totally different kind of director to try to do Justice League, and it doesn't turn out well. And I'm just like, let Zack Snyder do his thing, okay? If you're going to at least make money because of name recognition, you might as well at least have one person just doing his thing. Some people, might complain because it's not, what they see in the comics, and you're always going to get that. But just leave the man alone. Give him the budget he needs. Leave him alone. As long as you're recouping your expenses and you are making some kind of profit, can you really complain? Because it's definitely a lot better than, making crappy superhero movies like Joel Schumacher in the Batman movies or Superman 4.
I mean, Marvel's got 10 movies that grossed $1 billion or more.
Yeah.
I mean, and hell, one of the worst movies they produced, Captain Marvel, was number 10.
Yeah. So
I mean,
again, if you don't have that one person or a couple of people who are on the same people with a clear vision, like, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, then what's the point? And I think that's the biggest problem with, Star Trek. There was always one person who had the clear vision. His name was Gene Roddenberry. Mm-hmm. And they continued with that vision even after he died. Okay. And how everything else connected to Gene Roddenberry's vision. You can say that Enterprise, wasn't really his thing or whatever, but he also talked about prequels and
speaking about like franchises that continue with a vision after the captain's death, and I use the term captain loosely, but look at Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
When Lord of the Rings, when Peter Jackson did the Lord of the Rings, Tolkien had been dead for what, 30 years?
Uh-huh.
But in interviews, he always said, we didn't want to put our story into it. This was Tolkien's story. And so even if we had to cut some things because the book was too long, or even if we had to, maybe change some dialogue where, it was not that we changed the dialogue, but maybe Aragorn said something that in the book Elrond said, or Faramir said something that another character that got cut said. It was still Tolkien's words.
Right.
And look at the backlash they're doing now they're getting now with the Rings of Power. Because it doesn't really look or feel or sound like anything Tolkien would have put out. So
I don't know how to feel about Lord of the Rings at this point. I mean, hopefully we'll get screeners and we'll see it early, and I'll have an opinion then. but it's kind of funny. When I had a few minutes with Mark Wahlberg during our interview, and I mentioned who we were, he was like, "Oh man, it's a great time to be a nerd, man. You guys rule the world." I'm like, yeah, because all this stuff that we wanted as kids, we're finally getting. It's like we're in the golden age of them having the technology to be able to make proper superhero movies and sci-fi and all that. But the one thing that's lacking all that is proper vision and storytelling. And what you said about Peter Jackson, on the money. And that's why 20 years later, that still holds up as one of the greatest pieces of fantasy.
Yeah,
So,
and one of the best book adaptations of all time.
yeah. But I don't know. Getting back to Marvel, I'm excited to see where they go. But I'm also kind of at the point, it's like, you're giving me not as good as what we've had. And maybe it's hard to do that because it's not leading to the Infinity Wars, which is kind of the pinnacle. But
yeah, I'm at the point with Marvel where until we get to the X-Men and until I see they have a plan for the X-Men, I don't care about the overarching storyline. I care for individual movies.
right.
Like, I didn't give a shit about the Eternals, and I only watched it because I was bored one day and it was on free. I'm very much looking forward to Blade, however. So there's there are different things. We'll see how it all turns out. And then there's the mess that's Sony.
I am looking forward to Thor: Love and Thunder. It does look good, and
We'll see. I have a mixed bag on that one. We'll see how that turns out.
So
I'm hopeful, but
Chad, is there anything that you're really looking forward to in the Marvel Universe?
Well, like you just mentioned, the aforementioned Love and Thunder. I don't know if either one of y'all are aware, but we just got a dog, and I actually named him Thor. And he's this big. So it's part of the joke. But I'm such an admirer of where they've taken his story arc.
Sure.
And he's kind of got this distinction of having the only quadrilogy of a singular character in the MCU, which is kind of surprising that out of all of them, it wound up being Thor.
Especially after Dark World.
Yeah, no joke. That, the first chapter was okay. It was pretty dry, but then again, that's Kenneth Branagh, so what do you expect? Then Dark World just kind of put it right into the ditch. And
although it did give me, the first movie did give me my favorite Thor moment, though, when he slams the coffee cup on the ground and yells another.
Yeah. But then Waititi took the reins with Ragnarok and made what I think might be arguably the most, I guess if you want to look at it from a comic standpoint, not comic books, but comedy standpoint, one of the most satisfying entries in the MCU that no one really saw coming. Plus, whenever Waititi said he took 1980s Flash Gordon as an inspiration, he had my attention right then, because that's one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies. And just knowing that he's got the reins to this one again, I've got faith in the guy. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. If nothing else, I'm looking forward to see what they do with that.
Right.
Like, so of the movies they've got coming out, Love and Thunder is the next one in July. Then they got Wakanda Forever in November.
I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, we'll see. I like Paul Rudd, but Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians Volume 3, I do want to see what James Gunn does one last time.
Sure.
The Marvels, don't care.
Don't care.
Fantastic Four, it's been announced. We don't know when it's going to release, but it's been announced. I'll put a heavy asterisk. We'll see on that. Again, they've talked about the X-Men, but we don't know when that's coming. And then Blade's like of the rest. Oh, I guess Captain America 4, which is really Captain Falcon 1. okay, we'll see. And then Deadpool 3, yeah, I really want to see it. Shang-Chi 2, don't care. So,
I mean, one thing that we are getting into is, everybody has their favorite characters, but they're really excited to see that film with that character. And then the rest are just like, I didn't gravitate towards Black Panther as much. I mean, I like the movie, don't get me wrong. But without Chaz Boseman, I'm just like, I do not care whatsoever. And besides Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Deadpool 3, I mean, I'm just kind of like, okay. It's more superhero movies. But and the thing about Captain America 4, it's nothing against Sam. I liked the series. I thought they did a great job with it. I'm interested to see him in the next phase taking over the mantle. I don't really want a movie though. I kind of feel like I'm done with individual Captain America movies past Chris Evans and what they did with the series. So now, again, I could do a Captain Carter movie. Haley Atwell, gorgeous. She was great. Let her kick some butt. So, but I will say this. I will watch all of these movies before I watch the next Fast and the Furious movie.
the next Fast and the Furious movie that I watch will be the first one I've watched since the first one.
I still haven't seen 9 all the way through, and well, you can give me shit for writing a 100-word review on it last year. And someone's like, I think you nailed it. Yeah, I didn't even have to see it to tell you exactly what that movie was about. How about that?
You were able to come up with 100 words that weren't shit?
Yeah. Look, you got, fast car chases, lots of action. Dom talks about how he has family and not friends, and you somehow resurrect what's-his-face, but then throw in a long-lost brother to somehow add another dimension to Dom having family.
It was almost kind of like listening to Bill Burr talking about the white savior movies, about how the white person goes into the ghetto and they're not accepted, and then they go back and and then their slightly effeminate boyfriend's wearing sandals and he's cooking for some reason, and it convinces them to give it another try. And they go back and they're accepted, and she puts on a do-rag and they do a little dance. And he goes, I got a lot of black friends. He goes, I'm married to a black woman. Not one of them's ever offered to teach me how to dance.
Well, some movies are just so damn predictable that you don't even need to see it. Also, I love how the evolution of these characters is, we went from driving fast cars and street racing to stealing shit off trucks to now we're secret agents.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Whenever I saw that, I can't remember which one it was, where they were on the ice and Vin Diesel opens up his car door to kick away a torpedo that had been shot at him from a submarine that broke through the fucking ice. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Come the fuck on. Now we are in Die Another Day territory.
It's like you rode the Buckaroo Banzai rocket over the shark. You didn't just jump it.
No shit. This is just an exercise in ridiculousness.
And by the way, they probably will have an invisible car.
I don't doubt that for a second.
Didn't Justin Lin just quit that movie this past week?
Yeah.
Yes, apparently he had a huge fight with Vin Diesel and quit the movie, and they hired some other dude who needs a paycheck.
I'm sure somebody in the McG fucking
right.
Pantheon.
Somebody who's just going to sit there while Vin Diesel does everything.
Let's see who's doing the new Fast and Furious director.
All I want to say to Vin Diesel is, dude, I like you, but I'd rather see a movie about you playing D&D with your friends than any more Fast and Furious movies at this point. Okay, enough is enough. I don't need
I don't want another Triple X. I don't want another Riddick. Just go away.
Or at least make a movie where you're just making fun of shit, like the Machete movies. Machete in space.
I'd actually like a movie of So you know how they're doing a new Dungeons and Dragons movie, and I'm really, really concerned about this movie for numerous reasons. But I would love a Dungeons, because Vin Diesel actually is a DM. He DMs a regular game, and he has for years. I would love a Dungeons and Dragons movie with either Vin Diesel or Joe Manganiello as the DM, and a bunch of other actors as the players, and you see them playing the game, but then when they describe the action, it turns into an actual an actual movie with them playing their characters.
Yeah.
Kind of have a Jumanji moment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'd be good with that, actually.
Yeah, that would be
Justin Lin was replaced by, and I'm going to pronounce it this way because he's a French film director. So instead of saying Louis, I'm assuming he's Louis Leterrier. Who is known for The Incredible Hulk, Now You See Me, Unleashed, and Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
So, but he also worked on the Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, which was very good.
This is true.
Can we just say that with this latest movie that the director's name is not important? You are a guy who sits.
Oh, I know why they got him for this, because he worked on Transporter 2, which was better than Fast and the Furious before the Fast and the Furious. The Transporter were better Fast and the Furious movies.
Oh my God! So, how about we stop making Fast and Furious movies and we just make movies based off of Jason Statham and Helen Mirren's Crime Family, which would probably end up just being a Guy Ritchie movie, but I'd rather see that. So anyway,
speaking of which, I actually just quoted a Snatch to a friend of mine the other day. What happened? Does he get fucked? Yes, Tommy. Proper fucked.
You have anything to declare? Yeah, don't go to England.
Now, there will be one good thing about the next Fast and the Furious movie, and that is Julie Jones.
And eventually you'll get through it and the credits will roll.
Yeah. Well, there is that too, but I was going to say that Julie Jones's love affair, the great and gorgeous Charlize Theron, will be back playing Cypher. Is that her name? Is that her name in the movies? I don't even know.
I don't know. I didn't pay attention.
I know. There's literally no reason to. The name is not important. She just shows up. So, but anyway, speaking of getting back to Marvel real quick before we wrap everything up. Yeah, we've got some interesting stuff coming out. We'll see what happens. We're not telling you not to go see Doctor Strange. Go see it. I mean, there's definitely worse movies out in the theater.
What a ringing endorsement.
Chad, I'm not saying not to go see it. It's entertaining, but from a critic standpoint, yes, you could have added another 15, 20 minutes with flashbacks to give us some more well-rounded story. And I'm kind of done with Wanda's character at this point. It's like, I get it. You're a grieving mother with your fake children. Whatever. The only thing that I am only interested in this month is Top Gun. I want to see how this really actually turns out, which we'll see it next Monday. And then, of course, Kenobi. Other than that, don't really care. But I want to say one thing about Top Gun. Because we got like a press release. They released it was the official release of Lady Gaga's Top Gun Maverick.
Hold My Hand, I think is what it's called, or something like that.
Yeah. All right. I'm not making fun of Lady Gaga. I'm actually a fan. I think she's talented and everything else. But this does not take my breath away. Definitely not. And I'm listening to this song and watching the video, and like the best part of the video is scenes from the movie that you haven't seen in trailers. And that's really about it. And her just kind of going ape shit like she's fucking the piano on a runway, and she's wearing a dress now that, you know, looks like a parachute. And I'm just thinking, this song does nothing for me regarding this movie. So I'm curious about the rest of the soundtrack, because, you know, the original soundtrack was great. I don't think there was an absolute terrible song on there, but
like
playing with the boys. I'm sorry.
I don't care about the rest of the soundtrack because there's only one song we need. Danger Zone.
sure.
Like that's when you think Top Gun, I couldn't even, like, I forgot about Every Breath You Take, or Take My Breath Away. You know, like yeah, okay, now you say it, yeah, obviously it was a big scene in the movie, but
Right. So
like if you ask 100 people, Top Gun soundtrack, what song do you remember? 99 out of 100 are going to say Danger Zone.
Or You Lost That Loving Feeling, just because of the great bars.
All right,
Yeah.
fair, but yeah.
So, I mean, I'm wondering if we'll have, you know, that kind of stuff. But the other reason that we know, that the only reason we even know Playing with the Boys is because, you know, you got a shoe in that homoerotic volleyball scene, which clearly they're going for that again in this movie. So, I don't know.
Which I'm sorry, but there has to be somebody on the production that's writing this that is like an Army or a Marine veteran and that is doing this just to fuck with Navy veterans.
Probably. Again, I'm still excited for the movie, if nothing else, for the sheer spectacle of an action movie. And I just want to see him and Val Kilmer in a scene together. I want that nostalgia. And I've heard some press friends who actually were at the global premiere out in San Diego. I did find out that it is very touching and emotional, and, you know, we should probably enjoy it. But I think, you know, this movie is going to be a mixture of also kind of Mission Impossible with jets and a little bit of nostalgia for the movie that you really loved in the 80s with a Lady Gaga song.
Nobody cares about.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, apparently Danger Zone is on the track listing.
Of course, it has to be.
Soundtrack, yeah.
Well, yeah,
Like,
I
you
mean,
can't have top. They're inextricably. If you didn't have Danger Zone at some point while they're flying, it's not a Top Gun movie.
Well, that and the
It's just behind enemy lines.
the Harold Faltermeyer anthem is also there, so they had to bring that back too.
well,
Yeah.
of course they do. I mean, here's the other question I have too. Danger Zone, like the opening montage of the original Top Gun movie, is that not the greatest little bit of a promo video?
Oh, hell yeah.
In the Navy, and to work on the flight deck and maybe become a pilot in the Navy.
Oh, do you know how much that did more for recruiting for the Navy in the 80s than anything ever?
Bobcat Goldthwait did a whole thing on that.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you got your head shaved, you're hanging off the side of a boat with a barnacle scraper going. When do I get to fly that jet? When you get done with the other side, asshole.
Right. What? You mean Officer and a Gentleman didn't do enough for recruiting to want to become a pilot? No, but what it did is it gave the expectation to every woman that when a man shows up in uniform to say, "I love you," to walk out of the factory with her. It's like, honey, I said I love you.
Cocker singing in the background, having a spaz attack.
Oh my God. You know, I met him once.
He's greatness.
Yeah, he was doing a Q&A at Stephen F. Austin one of the years that I was there, because he actually went to college there. And
Really?
yeah, I just briefly got to meet him. So, I mean, he was very nice, but it's just like, hey, it's Joe Cocker. He wrote the lyrics for this very famous song and other things.
Oh, here's an interesting nugget, by the way. Miles Teller is going to do Great Balls of Fire.
Well,
He's going to redo his old man's bit, apparently.
yeah, first of all, you can actually kind of tell that from the trailer. Like,
Yeah.
Also, one thing that bothered me from the trailer though is like the whole "my dad made the mistake of trusting you. I won't make that mistake." Your mom never blamed Maverick for your dad, so why? And
Are you
it
doing that?
wasn't Maverick's fault. So what's with your attitude problem?
something that will get carefully explained in the movie.
Yeah,
as,
I'm sure it'll be very carefully and thoroughly explained.
right, Captain
Like
Maverick Pete Mitchell becomes the father figure that he never really had. I don't know. As I said, I mean, I'm excited to see it. It does look good, and I'm anxious.
I want to know who the enemy is, because like we don't have that clear cut enemy unless they're going back to Russia again. Because lately Putin being
Yeah,
Putin.
I feel like Russia can always be a good enemy. Or are we going to shoe in the North Koreans and act like that they really can do much, like they did with the reboot or the remake of Red Dawn? Yes, the North Koreans can easily invade the U.S. It's totally believable. It always happens when I play Risk.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, sorry. Yes,
that's a sentence that I had never thought. When you're playing Risk, you got to watch out for those pesky North Koreans.
They're like the Spanish Inquisition. Nobody expects
the North Koreans
for very good reason. Hell, the South Koreans don't even expect them.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Which, by the way, I have had the battle plan for when the North finally invades the South for years. Nobody wants to hear it, but I've got it. Fall back to Seoul, and when the North Korean troops arrive, you meet them with a smorgasbord of food. You fight them with a buffet. You do not fight them with weapons, okay? You've just put all the food in the world in front of that army, and they will lay down their weapons and eat.
No. Your fallback point, literally, the front wall of your fortress is just a chain of Asian buffet restaurants.
Oh, God. King Super Buffet.
Yeah. Throw in a couple McDonald's, some Taco Bell,
And this has been a lesson on warfare by the Nerd Show.
Hell, have you ever seen the videos? Have you ever seen the videos of escaped North Koreans who eat American barbecue? It's amazing. They lose their shit because there's this one guy in South Korea who traveled throughout all the major areas of barbecue, like Memphis, Texas, St. Louis, Carolina, and figured out how to do all the different styles of barbecue. And he brought it back to South Korea, and he has an American barbecue restaurant. Does a little bit of everything. He put plates of, and they're like, Americans eat one of these, and he goes, no, they can get all four of them on a plate at the same time. And they're like, shocked by food. Just throw a couple briskets out there, and let's eat. And all of a sudden, the North Koreans don't have an army.
Right. Oh, that's terrible. Anyway, all right. We'll be back in a couple of weeks talking more glorious nerd stuff, or we might actually wait. We'll let you know, but we might wait till we get to see the first couple of episodes of Kenobi. So until then, stay nerdy. Go see Doctor Strange 2. Yes, it is worth seeing in the theater, even if it's not the greatest Marvel movie. It is a lot of fun. Benedict Cumberbatch is great. As we have established, you can pretty much skip season 2 of Picard. I did take one for the team on that, but you should watch Strange New Worlds. So
I will say one last party shot in regards to the Kenobi trailer on that burn that Owen Lars has to Kenobi, like you trained his father. The two greatest responses I've heard to that are like, "Oh, you mean like your dad saved his mother?" Or
Oh
wow.
Or you mean like I trained Baru last night?
So one quick question about that. If you are a true Star Wars fan and you love fan films, and I'm on my binge watch of all the movies, so I actually folded all my laundry and was responsible last night as an adult, but while I was watching episode 4. And you get to the scene where he shows up at home and everybody's to a burnt crisp. Do you automatically just think about the fan film troops?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I see that scene,
I'm gonna shoot you.
Go back and I want to take a quick break to go watch that fan film.
Troops is filmed on location with the men of the Imperial forces. All suspects are guilty Otherwise, they wouldn't be suspect, would they?
That's still the greatest fan film ever. All right,
Yeah.
everybody. As I said, we'll be back in the next couple of weeks or 3 weeks with more stuff about Star Wars leading up to the 45th anniversary. We'll have a bunch of stuff going on the 25th. Since it is technically a nerd holiday. It is. So you are allowed to call in sick to work, binge watch shows, movies, do whatever, Star Wars cosplay, play video games. We're not doctors, but we feel like because we're telling you can skip work, that should be sufficient enough for doctors now.
Sure.
Yep. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what we think. So anyway, everybody, it is time to say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Everybody.